Hello, everyone. This is Mark Ciafardo from SUNY Cobblestone College, and this is my presentation on the psychology of schizophrenia. This is for my Psychology 111 class, and my professor is Professor Hoople. Now, what is schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a very serious and major mental disorder which dramatically can alter an individual's perception on reality. Changes in behavior can occur within an individual, such as increased anger, confusion, anxiety, and paranoia. The symptoms of schizophrenia can include positive symptoms, which are abnormally present. There are hallucinations, most common being able to hear voices. Others include visual hallucinations, such as seeing things or changes that aren't there in reality. There is also major paranoia and over-the-top delusions. What a delusion is a false belief that a victim of schizophrenia could adopt. This can include what causes paranoia, for an individual might have it on their mind that they are under threat by a dangerous force. An example could be believing that the sky is blue because of the CIA, or that the president has put a bounty on you for no apparent reason. Hallucinations are unreal experiences that deal with the five senses of the human body, such as hearing, tasting, smelling, seeing, and feeling. One of the most common hallucinations with schizophrenia, like I said before, would be auditory ones, like being able to hear vivid voices that aren't real. The negative symptoms of schizophrenia, which are absent, are an inability to socialize correctly or express certain emotions or find pleasure. Disorganized symptoms are confused speech and thinking and abnormal behavior. What causes schizophrenia? Well, it can either be a genetic or environmental cause. The mental disease can be passed down by generations. In some cases, it might even skip one generation and reach the one after. It can also be done to the environment an individual lives their life through, such as brutal abuse from a parent or severe PTSD. With so many factors at hand, science hasn't completely cracked down on what the main cause is. Though I'd like to point out this doesn't cause schizophrenia, abusive drug use, can enhance the symptoms and hallucinations for a person who already has the mental illness. Now, for treatments on schizophrenia, can include a consistent amount of specific medications or therapy. There are a couple medications, one of them being flufenazine. This antipsychotic works in the brain, replacing dopamine to help a victim improve thinking, moods, and behavior. The therapy for treatment is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. This treatment helps a patient in an effort to change their thinking patterns. This can be done by having the patient acknowledge the problems occurring, which will then lead to a reevaluation. Though these treatments are effective, most can last up to a lifetime. As of present day modern science, there is no known cure for the mental illness. Now, I would like to show you the brain with schizophrenia. The image on the left here is a brain with schizophrenia, and the image on the right is a normal functioning brain. What we can see with the brain that has schizophrenia is a heavy depletion of gray matter volume, which is especially prevalent in the temporal and frontal lobes of the brain. Gray matter volume is important for our well-being as it helps us do everyday things like control certain movements, help with memory, and help with our emotions. This is because within the matter, many neurons are at work that help enable these actions. With schizophrenia to deplete gray matter volume, it is clear why the symptoms of schizophrenia occur. And like I said before, this is a brain with schizophrenia, a decreased gray matter volume, and this is a normal functioning brain with increased gray matter volume. Now I'd like to point out some of the cases of schizophrenia that have been recorded. One of them being Aaron Carter. Aaron Carter was once a teen pop icon and singer of the late 1990s. He had revealed to fans later in his life that he was a victim of schizophrenia, alongside many other mental illnesses such as dissociative identity disorder, DID, anxiety, and manic depression. He had passed away at the age of 35, and the said cause was from drug abuse. He was found in his bathtub later. Now, in the other case I had come up with is actually my grandfather on my father's side, Albert Ciafardo Jr. Albert Ciafardo Jr. had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I am told from stories that he had filled the many symptoms of the mental illness. He was said to be very paranoid and would undergo delusions. He would commit suicide later in his life at the age of 28. Now, like I said, I heard stories. I was definitely not alive when he was. He had passed away when my father was only around 9 years old. I had heard these stories from my mother, which were then told by my grandmother. My grandmother had to live through the social aspects with a person who has schizophrenia and the many scary things that come with it. And the reason my father wasn't able to tell me these stories was because he couldn't remember. And that could be from suppressing that negative memory and traumatic experience of of a family member having schizophrenia and being at such a young age. Now I'd like to show schizophrenia shown through media. Here I have picked out two movies. The first one being A Beautiful Mind, starring Russell Crowe. In the movie, it is inspired by the real life John Forbes Nash Jr., who was a victim of schizophrenia. John Nash was a mathematical genius who goes through his own self-evaluation and later discovers he has schizophrenia. John Nash would experience both grandiose and persecutory delusions throughout his later life. And there is one scene I'd like to point out in the movie that shows the many reality checks a person with schizophrenia must take. In the movie, there's a scene where he is speaking with a student, and during the conversation, he remembers that he has this mental illness. So he brings up the fact. He says to her, "Is this conversation real?" And this is very important for a person who has schizophrenia to do these consistent reality checks. So, because if you were unaware of something that may or may not be real, it could cause lots of trouble for you. The second movie I picked out was The Soloist, starring Jamie Foxx and Robert Downey Jr. The movie depicts the real life character Nathaniel Ayers, a bassist musician who gets accepted at Juilliard School. He would later suffer from a major breakdown, prompting him to drop out. He would then live in a mental institution for some time in his life, be let out, and then live with his mother. The movie also shows the horrific details of electroshock therapy or electroconvulsive therapy. Now homeless after his mother had passed away, he endures the hardships of the mental illness. His life would turn around, though, as a journalist decides to write on his story. And like I said, the movie stars Jamie Foxx and Robert Downey Jr. Now comes to how you as a person can help an individual, a victim of schizophrenia. A major way you can help out a loved one or someone you may know would be to give them the utmost support when they are in need. Learning more about the illness can be very helpful when trying to help a victim and being able to confide with them about their problems and trying to help them socialize. You can also make sure the individual also keeps up with their important treatments, such as the medications and the therapy I listed off earlier. Make sure to help the individual, like I said, with the reality checks. Make sure that what they are doing is indeed a reality, and so that they don't get in trouble. Now, what I've learned from this mental illness is how scary it can be for a person who has and the loved ones who have to deal with this. It's like a self-conscious person always thinking negatively about themselves times infinity. Like, it's so hard on a person because all these negative thoughts from hallucinations, they can think that they are just being told these negative things, and it is very hard to live with in these delusions, thinking what's not real, and even thinking negative things that will make them think they are true, if whether or not they are. And it's also hard for a person living with an individual, such as a loved one, as they need to make sure that they are on their treatments and how to take care of them to help them emotionally feel better. And you must have great patience during it because, like I said, it is very scary, and not doing the proper care can lead to very dangerous things happening if the person with schizophrenia would decide to do something, which happened with my grandfather as he had passed away at a very early age in his life. And now I would like to show my sources for the project. The very first one was me finding out about the symptoms and the causes. Right down here was the brain image, right here. And most of my information was taught by my professor, Professor Hoople at SUNY Cobleskill. I want to thank you all so much for watching this, and I hope I have done a great deal in informing you about the negative things and how you can help with a person with schizophrenia by learning more about it. And thank you so much, and have a great day. Have a great day.